Hello class, here's my interview project video. I was fortunate enough to be in contact with two excellent candidates for this assignment. I learned additional information on the process and viewpoints of training dogs. Enjoy! Part 1, Interview with Dog Trainer. I interviewed Shay Estrada, a CPT and owner and trainer of Academic Hound. She's a certified professional dog trainer, and she graduated from the National Canine School for Dog Trainers in 2000. She owns and operates the Academic Hound in Kyle, Texas, and she remains up to date on current training techniques and literature. During my discourse with her, she clarified some information about her particular qualifications versus that of therapy dog practitioners. She stated, there is no special training required for therapy dogs. You can obedience train a therapy dog to make them a better, more well-behaved worker, but there is no actual requirement beyond them being well-behaved. Therapy dogs visit nursing homes, hospitals, etc. to make people feel better but aren't required to actually do anything. Service dogs, on the other hand, are task-trained to someone's particular disability. They encompass guide dogs, hearing, ear dogs, psychiatric service dogs, for example PTSD, and many others. If you're talking about service dogs, that's a very, very particular type of training that she does not do. She does basic advanced obedience training, and she rehabs dogs with behavior problems and or have anxiety aggression issues. She answered my questions in terms of general obedience training and or behavior modification. So that I wanted to state that as a caveat before we continue to show the difference in how she answered my questions. Rather, I modified the questions that Dr. Hartwig put to us so as to gather information within her scope of knowledge. Her clarifications were informative and helped me understand the dog training world more clearly. Also, she chose not to engage in a video interview, so I'll read her answers to my interview questions in subsequent slides. Question 1. What are your beliefs about how dogs should be trained, specifically for your purposes in a general view, if applicable? I believe, or Shay states, that I believe that every dog is unique and there should be no one-size-fits-all strategy. By this, I mean that there is a vast range of temperaments, life experiences, genetics, and other biological factors that come into play. Not only that, but different dogs will respond differently to stimuli day to day, usually subtle but not always. In the same way that their experiences pre-training will shape them, their experiences during training will shape them as well. The most important part of training is being able to read the dog second to second and adjust accordingly. Question 2. What impact do positive reinforcement training techniques, such as using treats, have on potential obedience-trained dogs? Positive reinforcement, in general, encourages dogs to work harder. It also usually gets them more interested in learning. What works for one dog as a positive reinforcer will not always work for another dog, however. Treats are normally useful, but I've worked with many dogs who do not see food as anything special. That means I have to find another way to encourage the dog, whether it be through tactile stimulation, as in petting, a happy voice and praise, tug or play, or something else entirely. Positive reinforcement only works when the trainer knows what they are doing, and timing is everything. Question 3. What impact do training techniques that use aversive stimuli, such as shock or e-collars, have on potential obedience-trained dogs? There is a time and a place for aversive, in my opinion. That time is never when a dog is just beginning to learn, only when a dog is purposefully refusing to work despite the fact that he knows the command. On top of that, the type or level of aversive is extremely dependent on the dog's temperament, the task being refused, the state of mind the dog is currently in, and many other factors. Despite using aversives, I do not feel that one should ever hurt or scare the dog. When the trainer doesn't know what they are doing, they can cause the dog to shut down. I will also state that I have rehabbed a huge number of dogs that were trained by inexperienced people. Some of those other trainers used too harsh of corrections, and the dogs had anxiety issues. That said, I have rehabbed more dogs that were trained by positive-only methods where the dogs had much higher anxiety issues. There is a balance, and the trainer needs to understand how to use both. Question 4. What type of relationship should an obedience-trained dog have with their trainer? The relationship between dog and trainer should be one of mutual respect and understanding. This is important on both sides. Part 2. Interview with a family friend, Dana Reynolds and Cooper. Dana Reynolds is a close family friend and a lifelong dog owner. She has recently begun obedience and service training Cooper so he can visit local children and bring them joy and comfort. Please watch our interview and listen to Dana's views on therapy dog training. Thanks.
Okay. Hi class. Hello. This is Dana and this is Cooper.
Hi.
She is actually training Cooper to become what kind of dog? Are you going to train him just for behavior or?
Yeah, he's going to hopefully in the fall go to the school that's right down the road and kind of be a therapy dog for kids that are going to school down there. It's a K through 5 school, and just that's the plan.
I think he's a really good candidate for.
Yeah, he's real sweet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so on that note, what are your beliefs about how therapy dogs should be trained?
Well, so what Cooper and I do is we have a really good relationship. The two of us tend to hang out a lot, and I give him treats a lot, and we have a really sweet, kind relationship, and he knows what I want him to do, and he does it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what he needs me to do, and I do it. It's a trust relationship.
Okay. And then what impact do positive reinforcement, like treats, like you said, techniques have on potential therapy dogs?
Well, Cooper will do anything for a treat, and my plan is, and he's real good with kids, and since we're going to be working with kids, that's kind of one of the things that I'm hoping that they can, give him treats. He's real sweet. He can take it right out of your hand. He doesn't need anything, and he will do anything if you give him a treat. So anybody can give him a sit command or a stay command or a dance kind of thing, and he'll do it if he gets a treat.
All right. So positive reinforcement definitely works for people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this dog loves it.
Okay, so then in the opposite, do you believe, or what impact do training techniques that are more aversive, like shock collars and whatnot, have on potential therapy?
We don't ever use anything like that, so I don't think that would, I don't think any dog should be adversely trained, yeah. So I don't think that's a good training technique.
Yeah, I agree. Because then it might make them afraid.
Oh, for sure.
All right, well then finally...
Or mean.
Right.
I mean...
Yeah, and just not, like you said, like sweet, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I think you kind of already touched on it, but so the type of relationship that he should have, I guess, with the practitioner or the trainer or whoever he's near, what kind of relationship is that?
I think that it just calm and confident, like I said, trusting that they can trust each other, and that he knows that he can, that I'll take care of all of his needs, and just confident in that fact. That's all I would say. It's just fun. It's partially fun for him.
Right.
And he's probably pretty nervous right now. You can tell by his ears being that way. I don't know why.
He's always like, I don't understand what's going on. But he's
like,
sitting
when are
there.
you going to let me down? But
Right.
this is Cooper, though. He's so good.
And calm. I like the way his little paws touch me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And
You're welcome.
Thanks for talking to me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hi, class. Say hi, Charlie. Alright, this is the last part of my interview project, and this is my takeaway from both of my interviews. One with Miss Shea, and then one with Miss Dana and Cooper. So one thing that I thought was really important that I got from both of the people, especially that since they both were trainers in their own right, was that the relationship with the dog seems to be extremely important. Just as it is in counseling, with that rapport building and that foundation of the relationship between therapist and client, I feel it's the same thing with the dog and the practitioner or the trainer. And I found that to be extremely interesting, that between both, that confidence and trust and respect were both vital for both. I also found it interesting that neither of them seemed to really like the idea of adverse stimuli. I thought that the more positive training techniques seem to be more positively viewed, and they seem to be used more often. And so I think that if I ever were to train, or even attempt to train like Charlie or anything like that, I think that would be my route that I would take. I think that, as Ms. Shea said, that aversive techniques, if used incorrectly, it could scare the dog or have them shut down, especially if they don't understand why. And I like that she also mentioned that those kinds of techniques were more used for dogs that knew that they were doing wrong. They know the commands and they're just actively not doing it.
But she didn't say how often, but I wonder how often that does happen. That should have been maybe one of the other questions I should have asked, and I was interested to know more. But that Miss Dana did not mention it at all. She didn't say that she used them whatsoever. That treats seemed to be the best option for Cooper, and I think it makes the most sense that you give a dog a treat, where they're going to be more likely to want to do what you want, and then especially since a reward is available, and it's a more positive way of doing it. And I feel like that, and like I mentioned before, that relationship can foster by that trust that, oh, if I do something, I'm going to get something good in return, and then the change will go from there. And finally, I just thought it was really interesting how both of them really how they viewed training process, that it is a possible thing, that it can be used for good, and that both of their animals seem to be, at least with Miss Shea, like the fact that she's been doing this for 20 years, that it obviously is something that has worked and is proven to work, and that Miss Dana has positive views of Cooper and said that his affect is perfect for it, and that he seems to be willing to do it. So I think that it's an interesting thing to look into, and I learned a lot. Alright, thank you.
Thanks for watching!